All right, guys, it's January. I know a lot of you are thinking about what you would want to do in your 2025 garden, but it's still super cold. So most of us are not in the mood to do anything about it just yet. It's still January, it's not March, April, May yet. For most people, we have 60 to 90 days before a lot of things that we want to do garden-wise becomes urgent. I'm going to talk about the things that you shouldn't wait to do so you can have a good start to your 2025 garden. The first thing I would do is place a tarp over the area that you plan on starting your garden in. This is a good time to do it. For most people, you have 3 or 4 months before you even care about starting your garden. But if you put your tarp down now, you won't have to fight through the grass and the weeds to get started. You'll just pull your tarp up and you'll have pretty nice bare dirt to start from, and you don't have to worry about sacrificing your back to even get started. This area, for example, is where I had my watermelons last year. And one of the challenges with watermelons, because they have vines, is when you start them, everything looks good. But as the vines travel, those now become areas that you can't maintain as easily. You can't just run a lawnmower through there because you're gonna chop up your vines. So what happens over the summer is you start getting grass and weeds that start out competing your watermelon. And that is something I dealt with for years. So last year, I had this entire area with this landscape fabric, and that was my best watermelon year ever. And so I'll never go back to not using something like that. This year, what I'm actually going to use is silage tarp. That's going to prevent water from seeping through because I do have drip irrigation. And the first storm we had last year, I'm not sure which one it was. I don't know if it was Debbie or what. I came back from a conference and I had like 5 or 6 watermelons that had exploded because my plants took on too much water. But if I use a silage tarp, that'll stop the water from seeping into the ground, and I can control how much water I want on my plants. So what I plan on doing is covering the whole area and having holes where each plant will grow from, and I'll be completely weed free the entire season. Another added benefit that I didn't realize before I did it was the insects. I had way less insect pressure with the black plastic. I don't know why, but for some reason they don't like the black plastic under the vines. So that helped me out a whole lot too. So go ahead and lay your tarp down, kill that grass, kill the weeds, and leave it. And just poke holes through the tarp and space your watermelons and let the vines run on top of the tarp. I promise you, you'll have a much better watermelon growing experience if you do this. Another thing I would consider doing is starting your onions from seed. Now, in a previous video, I talked about starting your onions from seed in November, but there is a window. And I would say January is basically the end of that window. Now, I did start my seeds in November, as you can see here, but I also started another round of onion seeds in January so I can have an extended harvest. So if I were you, I would go ahead and knock that out. Don't wait too late because your bulbing onions bulb at a certain day length. And you want those onion plants to be strong when that day length is optimal because you want bigger onion plants so you can create bigger bulbs. Small onion plants are not going to give you big bulbs, but you got to get the plant in early enough so it can get established to where when the day length is correct, then you have the size onion that you want when it starts to bulb. So don't wait. January is probably your last chance to do this. Another big one is getting your potatoes sprouted in time. Last year, I planted my seed potatoes February 10th, and I had my best potato harvest ever. And I feel like the main reason that happened was because I was able to get my potatoes in the ground way earlier than what I normally do. And did a frost come and eventually burn the tips of my plants a little bit? Yes. But the bigger benefit was potatoes don't like super hot weather. So I was able to get a mature potato plant in cool weather for a longer period of time before the sun came. And because of that, my plant had more time to produce mature sized potatoes. If I had waited too late when it got warm to plant potatoes, yes, I would have gotten a harvest, but the plants would have taken a hit from the sun and my harvest would have been smaller. So this year, I'm actually going to plant my potatoes before February 10th and use my frost protection fabric to protect them so I can get even more of that time of my potato plants being in cool weather. So can you find seed potatoes in the store? Yes, but you're going to be limited on the different varieties that you want to plant. Also, they may not have them as early as you would want to take advantage of the cool weather like I am. So one thing you probably want to do is research some different varieties and start ordering them, because a lot of people already know about doing this. So they're going to order up all of the seed potatoes, or maybe some of the good varieties that you would want. They're going to order them before you if you don't get on it. So for me, I have some of my potatoes from last year. They're kind of out of hand, I'm not going to lie. But these are already sprouted. So these are going to go in the ground, less than a month from now. And I'll be ahead of the game with my 4 or 5 different potato varieties. And, it'll be another good year. So you want to make sure you're in this position having sprouted potatoes already, because if you get potatoes, that doesn't mean that they're ready to go in the ground right away. You want potatoes with sprouts on them already, so they can start that process as soon as they're in the ground instead of becoming rotten in the ground. So the earlier you get your potatoes, the more time you have for them to sprout, and then you can put them in the ground. And I'm going to do a video on how I plant potatoes, but you want sprouted potatoes when I do that video. You don't want to get a fresh bald potato when I do that video, or you're going to be way behind. So go ahead and start gathering up your seed potato varieties that you want to try, and by the time it's time to plant, you're ready. Another thing that I think people overlook is gathering or applying your compost now. If you're going to buy bag compost from the store, just get like 2 bags a week and let it accumulate until the warm weather comes, instead of waiting until May like everyone else, and you're going to go in there and be disappointed that you might have to throw some elbows to get a bag of compost. Also, the prices right now may not be as high as they are when the demand for compost is super high. If you already have access to compost, it would be a good idea to go ahead and spread it now so that compost can get established in place before the soil warms up. And the same goes for mulch. I'm not going to get all nerdy into about the fungal benefits of having mulch in place early, but just look at nature, how leaves have dropped during the fall and winter, and how that stuff stays in place over winter. And then when spring comes, the plants are able to use that mulch, that compost throughout spring and summer without you ever having to bother it. Everything around you looks watered, right? Everything around you looks perfectly mulched because it's already in place in the time period that nature sees fit. You can get a lot from copying what naturally happens by applying your compost now, applying your mulch now. One thing I would advise against is not to place fresh wood chips around your plants. Go for something that's aged, whether it's straw or maybe some aged hay. Watch out for the seeds though. But don't go for fresh wood chips around your plants. That's going to tie up a lot of the microbe activity that your plants need. Instead, if you have fresh wood chips, maybe put that in your pathways or in areas that you know are prone to weeds around your garden, like the corners and little in-between areas that you never plant anything. Put some wood chips there so you don't have to worry about the weeds later. One idea that I'm implementing this year is I'm planting flower bulbs in those areas to kind of outcompete the weeds. I know it doesn't apply to everyone, but another good idea is to prune your fruit trees. A lot of people have fruit trees in their yard, but they kind of neglect them because they haven't given them fruit in however many years, or they're just too big, or whatever it is. But I'm not an expert on pruning, but if you just go for making it a wine glass shape that's balanced on all sides and at a height that's manageable to where you can reach all of the fruit, that's going to help out a lot with airflow and light that reaches certain parts of the plant to where you can have a better fruit quality. You know, as far as your trees not bearing fruit, the biggest issue that causes that is our little fake spring we have, right? And then the blooms come and then we have another frost. That usually kills all of the blooms. I'm gonna take some measures to protect the tree when that happens. But if the tree is giant, I can't protect anything. So just take the time and try to prune your fruit trees. Just cut them back to a manageable size. And as you can see here, I have a mulch layer on top now, not early spring. You want this mulch to become established as early as you can. That helps the tree more. Bonus tip, if you wanted to try some other varieties that you can only get online that have a different flavor or maybe come from a different place, go ahead and order those now. I had a yellow watermelon variety that I wanted to try last year that sold out on me. And I checked this year and it's already on pre-order for 2026. So go ahead and don't be me. Go ahead and take care of that now. All right, guys, I hope this list helps you get in the mode early to have a good start for your 2025 garden. Just let me know in the comments if you have any questions about what I'm doing right now to prepare. Thank you.